Good to see everybody. Let me start getting you promoted here.
Cool background, Gary.
Okay, I think I got just about everybody. There'll be more, and I'll look for one of my trustee cohorts. They can take over promoting here. I know Andre's probably not going to be on, guys. He's down between Fort Myers and Sarasota. So he just moved there 2 weeks ago, the week before the hurricane. And the funny thing is, we were messaging each other. I was like, "Hey, Andre, man, you're going to love it down here in winter." Of course, the hurricane came through, but he's a tough bird.
He had a roof leak.
Okay. And Gina, good news here. Her grandson was born yesterday. Yeah, so she's a grandma. Okay, let's make sure. Oops,
I still have a hard time believing she's the grandma.
The wrong panel, and then back in the right panel. Okay, let's see. Hey, Greg, good to see you. I just saw your email right before the class, so it looks like you got it just in the nick of time.
I'm not sure Gary can hear me. Can anybody hear me?
Luann Dunn, thank you very much. That was nice.
I don't think he can hear any of
I
us.
don't think he can hear us either, because I can hear.
And that was good news too, wasn't it?
Type it in the chat box and you'll see it. He's got his.
Good to see you, Rob Perot. Hopefully you're dry and on
Hey,
high
Gary.
ground there. So,
Hey, Gary.
I think that is everybody. Okay. Let me just check one thing here real quick. Craig, let's see, Heather, Jenna, Luann, Sally. Hey, Tony, if you could do me a favor, Tony Moore, I've got to get started. If you see people logging in that I haven't promoted, just unmute yourself and let me know so I can. You can interrupt me. Let me know so I can promote them to panelists. And I appreciate you doing that. I think I've got everybody here. Mo, Kevin,
Gary.
Jim, Diana. Good to see you, buddy.
Gary,
Gary, can you hear us?
can you hear us?
Okay. Hey, Arthur, how are you?
Yeah.
Eric,
I don't
good to
even
you.
see
Oh, wait a
us.
minute.
There you go.
Me and my brand new microphone and my brand new headset, and the sound on my computer was turned off. Can you guys hear me okay now?
We could
We can
hear
hear
you before.
Yeah, you just couldn't hear us, buddy.
Just couldn't hear us.
We're good now.
I had the same issue. I couldn't hear myself. I couldn't see myself.
Because I don't hear you guys at all, but now I'm
Oh,
going to
he still can't hear us.
Now you can hear me, right?
Can
And I
you
can
hear
hear-
us?
We can
Okay,
hear
yes. Oh my gosh, we ought to start our own comedy series. Goofy things that Gary does. Oh, that is Olga logging in. Hey, Olga. Yeah, it looks like you're in under Jim. Good to see you.
Hey, thank
up-
you. Nice
you
to
up in
see you
Northern-
all.
Yeah, are you up in Northern Virginia or down in South Carolina?
No, I'm done with Northern Virginia. I don't want to
Oh,
go
hey.
there.
Hey, congratulations.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank
Well, you're in a good place down there. Craig Leverett is on tonight, Olga, and he's down in Greenwoods. He's not too far from you.
Oh yeah, that's so fun.
Yep. If you guys want to connect, he's got some. We had our strategy call today, and he's on the commercial mastermind group. So since you and I last spoke, we started a commercial group inside the team, and I run that group personally. The other core groups are run by other people, but
Yes, I would like to have a connection, please.
yeah. So Craig, if you would mind, you and I know it says Jim, Diana, it's actually Olga. Yeah, just
Actually,
connect
we
with each other.
both.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Okay, guys, a couple things here. So obviously we may have a few people out due to the Hurricane Ian last week. We had a group going on and texting of about 18 people in Florida. That's quite a lot of people in the group here. So some of them, Cindy Lukehart and Andre, probably got it the worst because they were both in Fort Myers, Naples area, then moving north. Andrea Davis was up in the Venice Beach area. And from north there, we got Tampa, of course, with Betty and Targan and Alyssa. Unfortunately, they didn't have it as bad, but there's some serious pictures I can share with you guys. Maybe I'll put them on our workplace tomorrow. There's some of the damage. I mean, I've lived around the coast my whole life, so I've been in several hurricanes, but where the lower side of the wall hit, there's usually it's like there's a lag kind of thing that goes on, like a big wide band. It's sort of inertia effect, and it just all that water was getting sucked out of Tampa Bay. Well, the opposite was occurring on the bottom side of the hurricane, where it's all getting pushed in, and so houses were really lifted off their moorings and cars turned over and just all kinds of stuff. So, in any case, just keep those people in your prayers, and we're stringing together a ragtag band of people who are helping, trying to find housing. We're trying to find a place for Andre right now, and Gina, and of course in Orlando, Kai's in Orlando, Gina's north of Orlando, northwest. Michael Ushery is northeast of Orlando, between there and the beach. They got it pretty good too. And but Gina is in Washington State with a brand new grandbaby. So his name's Ansel. And for those of you who like football, the Cleveland Browns have already drafted him to be a linebacker because apparently they need it. Yeah. Sorry, any Cleveland fans in the room? Sorry. I'll stick to my day job. So, hey, Eric, congratulations. It looks like you pulled in was it a listing or a sale?
It's actually a EXP agent moving to Connecticut from the Philly area. So he needed a license. So actually Gil saw it on Workplace and said, call Eric. He's looking in town, two towns over. So worked out great. We did 12 showings on Sunday and picked a house. Worked out great. I called the agent, convinced him to take the offer, and said, we're not going to mess around. We'll get it done. So done deal.
Well, congratulations.
Thanks.
Yeah. And welcome aboard to some of the new folks. And please forgive me if I miss anybody. I see Sarah's on. I know it's Sarah. How's the license transfer going? I know they told you 20 days. Hopefully it's not going to be 20 days. So let's see. Is Sarah still there? I know I saw her somewhere.
Yeah,
Renee?
sorry, I'm still here. It was just
Oh.
having me on computer audio. I wasn't able to talk.
I don't know what that's like. I never have any problems with my computer audio. I just kidding.
It's going. I still haven't heard anything back from them, so it's still waiting. It's a waiting process still.
Okay, good. Okay, let's see, Renee, Jenna. Okay, good to see everybody. All right, what we're doing tonight is we're going to go over how do you determine if a rental property is a good deal. I'll first get the basics taken care of, which is cap rate and cash on cash return. Cap rate is very simple. Everybody uses cap rate, but really good investors actually lean more on cash returns. So we're going to show you that. And that really, guys, if you have those two things nailed down, and we're going to give you an example when we go through it, you're going to be in pretty good shape. There are other things I'm going to show you, and we'll go a little bit long tonight, but that's okay. As you might imagine, calculating returns on rentals, and there's just a lot to it, is a little bit more complex than flips. Flipping is easy. You buy a house low, you remodel it, you sell it high, and the price that you sell it for minus your cost and your remodeling, that's your net profit. And there's a formula to follow that we went over last week. On rentals, the key there is paying attention to detail, have an eagle eye for every single thing. You can't leave any stone left unturned, whether it's deferred maintenance on the analysis side, physical analysis, or expenses that you might have ever thought of. Just remember this, it's easy to make money in rentals. Well, in principle, it's easy to make money in rentals. It does take work to do it. But the challenge is most people where they fail or don't succeed is on the expense side. The expenses, it can eat your profit alive. So in any case, we're going to go into a more elaborate example later on, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So in any case, before we get started, does anybody have any questions? Anything you've been wanting to cover, like in the last week, that you've been wanting answers on? I know we have one-on-ones, but if anything for the group that you want to share, let's go ahead and do that first, and we can do it later too at the end if you want to. But let me check the chat box here real quick. It's Attica. Thanks, Kathy. I should have checked my text message. Yep. And that's everybody else saying, Gary, can you hear us? We can hear you. Okay, good. All right, now let's go ahead and share screen, and I will get this show started. Okay, that's not the one we want. We want. We're going to go over that later on. Okay. What I'm showing you here, guys, is the written version. It's in the Investor Agent Training Program. Okay. And this is module 6. All right. And if you guys want to follow along, you don't have to, because I'm sharing it on the screen, but just remember, in the Investor Agent Training Program, module 6, you can also get for free the rental profit program. As long as you're on the team, of course, or you're a student, you can get the rental profit program. The entire program is just on rentals, separate from the Investor Agent program. Also, just for asking for it, you email. For the rest of the week, Jody and Sugar is taking over part of her role. They can unlock that program for you. In that module, in that training program, it's also module 6, but it's a much more complete, elaborate module. And I'll show you that in a second. But what I want to do is start with this, okay? This is an old example. I think it was one of the first properties I ever bought years ago. And I thought, because it's easy, small numbers, let's just go ahead and use it to demonstrate the very basic calculation of cash flow, cash on cash return, and cap rate, okay? So in any case, first things first, if you want to take notes, and this is what I recommend to really learn this stuff is, and in addition to watching, is have a pen or pencil handy and a pad of paper and write these figures down. And if you can use your phone if you want, okay, or a handheld calculator to do the actual math, and that's okay too if you want to do that. But for the example, go ahead and write down that we have an income of $1,150 a month, or $13,800 per year. You're going to want both. You're going to want monthly and annual figures. Okay, in a lot of cases, you don't need to really be concerned about the breakdown of the rentals. Look how old these are. Look at those rents back then. That's a long time ago, 25 years ago. So, in any case, by one quick note here, if you notice the garage is rented separately, that's because in all my rentals, I always spun the garage off separately. Not because I was crazy, because I could. And maybe I am crazy, but it generated a lot more extra income. And the tenants could rent it out, but it would be a separate lease. Never had any real flack from that. I mean, people, they want to store their stuff. It's right there versus going across town to some storage place. Okay, so just a quick little tidbit there. If you have garages, always rent them out separately. Okay. In any case, on the expenses, if you notice here, I just provided the basics, which is taxes, insurance, water, and maintenance and repairs. The maintenance and repairs, this is not capital improvements. So maintenance and repairs does not include roofing and new kitchens and bathrooms and electrical, plumbing, and HVAC, and those are called capital improvements, and you depreciate those. Okay, that's a separate category for tax purposes. So this is just routine maintenance repairs, changing doorknobs, fixing broken locks, just stuff like that, okay? And I always, in my history, it's always been about $50 a month. That's what that was for. Now, that included, by the way, lawn care, snow removal, things like that, just regular routine monthly maintenance and repairs. Water in this example, oh, by the way, these are annual figures. So water for the year was $1388.50, okay, in that property. And you're going to kick out of this. Look at the insurance costs, $322 a month. I mean, I'm sorry, a year for that property. Now, real quick tip on insurance. There are like 3 forms of insurance. They actually call them forms: basic form or A form. There's a middle of the road version, and then the advanced version, which gives you all the bells and whistles. It covers every kind of loss you can imagine, even lost rental income. So if you have some type of crisis, like a fire, not only do you get your property rebuilt, but you get replacement rental income while it's being remodeled, okay? If you only have a couple of properties, you want to have good insurance. Go for the B or the middle row, the middle one, or the advanced one, okay? But as you grow a portfolio, and this is the kind of suggestion you can make to your clients too, once you get to have, say, 25, 30 units, I mean, maybe they got, 10 duplexes or 10 triplexes or something, you can drop down to the A form or the basic form. Now, I'm not an insurance person. I'm not a lawyer. I'm just telling you strictly from lots of years of experience. It's a numbers game. Yes, I could pay a lot more money for a lot more insurance, and eventually I'll use it. Eventually you're going to have, if you have rentals long enough, you're going to have something happen. Somebody's going to slip and fall on the ice, break a bone, and you have to pay for the medical costs. You're going to have a fire. You're going to have all kinds of things happen. It's not a matter if, it's a matter of when. But what I recognize is, just like with any other type of insurance, they price those things so they make a profit. Okay, they're winning. Okay, in most cases. So what I realized was, if I have enough units, my units themselves act as sort of a hedge against crisis, right? Against disaster. So if I have a fire in one property, I might have 2 or 3 units out of commission for 3 months, but the other 27 are still up and running, and as long as I'm a good landlord, right, a good owner, and I maintain the properties well, screen my tenants well, and make sure I have smoke detectors and fire extinguishers everywhere, those events should be minimized, and they should be fewer and further between, which is exactly what happened. Over the years, I was way ahead of the game as far as profit and loss goes, because I was able to keep my expenses down, and insurance was one way I did that. Okay. So in any case, insurance, $322 a year. Taxes, if you can imagine that, yep, $700 a year. You won't find that anymore, at least in too many places. So in any case, you add all that up, all right, you take your income minus your expenses, and that's your net operating income. I like to calculate it on a monthly and an annual basis, okay? So for the expenses, I didn't show it to you, but you would simply take all these and divide by 12, and that's your monthly expenses, okay? So at the end of the day, my $1150 a month minus my expenses left me just about $900 a month, okay? $899.46 to be exact, or $10,793.54 for the year. So let me do a quick pause here. So far, is everybody okay?
Yes, I do have a quick question though, Gary.
Mhm.
You had a very interesting thought here that you shared, renting garage separately. I
Yep.
never heard of that before, but I
Yep.
got used to, we have a garage either in a single family home that is already in the house, or the townhouses that have garages already built in. Are you referring to those garages or garages
sorry.
that are separate?
Yeah, you're right. You're right, Olga. Please forgive me, guys. On a single family home with an integral garage, I would definitely keep the garage as part of the house. In fact, I've had very few single families. Most of what I had were multifamily. I did have some single families, but I did not spin off the garages on the single families.
Okay, so if it's the separate building or the apartment building, then you would do that separately. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, exactly. And in fact, on the single families, the exception to the rule is, if it was a detached garage, I actually did rent those separately. I didn't have too many of them, but I absolutely rented them out separately.
And going to your second point, about insurances, would you be separating insurance for that as well, though?
No, because it's on the same deed. It's just on the same property. Yeah.
Okay, and if they choose not to rent it, you just keep it empty, right?
Yeah, the only time I kept the garage not rented is we would keep some for ourselves. And we would keep in there supplies that we would need. We would, so let's say, you know, once a year, Sherwin-Williams would discard a lot of their you know, product, the things they're not making anymore, like certain types of paint. We would go in and buy entire pallets of it, you know?
Oh,
Yeah, and keep it in a garage. And same thing with like tile. We would get, pallets of tile that they were discontinuing, keep them in these garages, and they were strategically placed around the area. So we were never more than 10 minutes away from a garage where we could get supplies, you know? So
this is phenomenal. With this economy, I might make more money on that than selling their houses to regular people.
you know, it's funny. I was thinking about the other day, I was thinking, gee, if I had all that stuff because of the supply chain problems, I could start my own, you know, I don't know what you would call it, Gary Depot or something, who knows, but yeah, we would keep kitchen cabinets, countertops, paint, tile, doors, windows, roofing supplies. Yep, we probably had, you know, easily four garages at any one time with all that
Wow.
stuff in there. Yep. So back to the original question. So as long as if you have a detached garage, your insurance policy for the property covers the house and the garage. The only time it might be different is if it was the garage was on a separate deed, but I never had that situation. Now, the other thing too is this, guys, since we talked about insurance, remember when you're a landlord, when you own rental property, okay, your policy does not cover the renter's personal belongings, okay? So if there's a fire, your house is covered. You get reimbursed for the building of your house. But the tenant's clothing, furniture, all that stuff, they have to cover it. So you always have to have make sure your tenants have renter's insurance. You know, this is off the subject for tonight, but it's really important that you want to have them name you as an additional payee. Okay, you're going to have the tenant. I'm sorry. Renter's insurance would name you as additional payee. I actually had some lenders say, well, if you're going to do that, we want to be named as additional payee too. And a lot of lenders, they require that they're named as additional payee on the insurance policies. Okay. So, you're in that case, you're the owner of the insurance policy at your house and the bank is additional payee. On the renter's insurance is naming you as additional payee. What I'm saying is sometimes the banks would also on the renter's policy be named as additional pay. And I didn't like that. I would fight them on it, because it was a different purpose. And, if that policy wasn't getting paid, I would pay it myself. So in any case, just remember that lesson. You want to make sure your tenants have renter's insurance. And if you're named as additional payee and they let it lapse, not only do they get notified, you also get notified, so you can step and intervene, because last thing you want to have happen is a tenant cause damage and something that they did on their own, and they don't have a renter's policy, and your policy may have some restrictions on it if it's a tenant-owned property. But just keep that in mind, guys. Okay.
Hey, Gary,
Yes, ma'am.
is there any way you could just make that part of the rental?
Oh, absolutely. You can, absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
So not only will we put it in the lease that this was required, but if we put in their verbiage, if they let the policy lapse, that their rent would be increased by that amount, and a little bit more actually, and they would have to pay that increased rent. And it was in the lease, so it was defendable. Like if we ever had to go to court, we could defend it because it was in the lease that they signed. We did have some properties where we just went ahead and put it in there, we would pay for the policy. So, and we would add that to the rent. Absolutely. So good questions, guys. Now, as far as determining net operating income, everybody okay so far? I don't see any questions popping up here.
I do have a quick question though.
Yep.
For that was a great question again. Can we put that in a part of a lease?
Yep.
by your experience, if we originally put, hey, whatever, $100 rent, $20 towards insurance, can we advertise it as such? Or just,
Well, you could actually, I never did that, but I come to think of it, that's not a better, you could say, you'd advertise a property for rent, you could put in there, the rent includes your renter's insurance. You know,
okay,
you could put, that might be a good selling feature. Just say, hey, by the way, this rent includes you getting a policy for your belongings paid by us, something. That's something, Olga, you want to test, you want to beta test it. Like if you have 5 rentals, try it with one of your next upcoming vacancies and see how that works for you, because I've
Okay.
not done it. I'm not, there may be some objections that you might have that I'm not familiar with, or haven't had.
okay,
So, in any case, so the next thing is the purchase price. So this is when I sold years ago. I bought it, I think, for 42,000, sold it for 70. And the person who bought it put down 20%, which is 14,000. So right now that doesn't matter for our purpose. It is going to matter here in a minute. So to calculate the cap rate, okay, you take your net operating income, which is 10,793.54, right, and divide it by the purchase price. So that's your cap rate down here. It says 15.4%. So cap rate is your net operating income, which is income minus expenses, right? That net result divided by the total purchase price of 70,000, and that gives you a percentage of 15.4%. Now, if you notice in here, up here in our expenses, what's not included in these figures here for expenses?
utilities?
Loan payments.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, because remember, interest is an expense on a loan. The principal portion of a loan payment is not an expense, but the interest is. So when we calculate cap rate, we're only using net operating income, not including debt service, divided by the total purchase price. Okay, does that make sense, guys? Okay, and by the way, it's making or it's actually, what we're doing here is we're not making the assumption that anybody who purchases is going to have a loan. This is pure purchase price, cash, cap rate, income, expense. Whether the buyer has a loan or not is immaterial when it comes to a cap rate calculation. Okay, it will become necessary. The debt service will become necessary to know when you're calculating cash on cash return, which is different. So let's continue with the example. This guy bought the property for 70,000, right? Put down 14,000, got a loan for 56,000 over 20 years at 5%. That's a great commercial loan. Okay, we like 20-year terms. If your clients ever ask you, hey, I didn't realize I could get 15 or 20 or 25 or 30, or what should I do? And this is my opinion, okay? But in taking CCIM classes, we studied this to the nth degree. We studied the future value of cash flows. We studied the current value of future cash flows. Okay. And we did all these calculations. It turns out, it was sort of not an exact science, because you're comparing, apples and oranges, 10-year loan, 15-year loan, 20-year loan, all that kind of stuff. And this is assuming there's no balloon payments. There's no deferred principal payments. The term matches the amortization. Okay. So it turns out the optimum use of borrowed funds was at 20 years. When you factor in time versus money and all that, everybody said, yeah, that's the one I'm going for. So after that, I did all my purchases using 20-year terms. Okay. Any case, so the monthly debt service on that was $369.58 a month. Okay. And if you multiply that by 12, you'll have your annual debt service. So the cash return, okay, not the cash on cash return, just the actual dollars, subtracting the debt service, right, from your net operating income. But remember, up here, your net operating income does not include debt service. Down here, we're going to multiply 529.88 times 12. That's going to give you, let me just do this real quicker, because I think that cash return, yeah, I'm sorry. You take your monthly net operating income, 899.46. Subtract the 369.58, and you get 529.88. That's the monthly cash return after you've paid your loan in addition to the other expenses. Multiply that times 12, and you're getting $6,358.56 a year. Okay, not too shabby even by today's standards, right? Now that's your cash in your pocket. To get the rate, the cash on cash return, you take the net operating income, including debt service, okay, and divide it now by the down payment, not the total purchase price. So cash on cash return is 63.58, the actual cash in your pocket after your debt service and other expenses, divided by the down payment. Now there's more to it than this. It's actually your cash out of pocket. This, we only know that there was a down payment of 14,000 in this example. But if that buyer had bought it like you did for 70,000 and put 14,000 down, and then right away put 6,000 into a new roof, right? You would have to include that 6,000 in the cash out of pocket. Okay. So you would divide 63.58 in that case by 20,000. So just keep that in mind. In this example, this works because it's at the point of purchase, and only cash out of pocket was $14,000. Over time, because you're including the debt service in this calculation, cash on cash return, and it's based on cash out of pocket, that could increase over time, and that cash on cash return could change. All right, let me take another quick breather here and let you guys absorb that and see if there's any questions. And I will tell you guys, please don't be shy. I mean, this is especially for the guest. This is an open class, totally free. You can invite anybody you want, and there's no selling. We don't have anything to sell you. There's no recruiting. It's just flat out straight education. So this is good for you and your investors to be part of this. So you can definitely invite them. And I will tell you this, furthermore, if you nail and you can memorize these two calculations, you'll always be in good shape, because you could go on any property with any investor, whip out your phone and do these right on the spot. And that'll really impress them. Renee, hey, Renee, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Oh, I thought I was. Can you hear me?
I can, yeah.
Okay, thanks. Hey, Gary, quick question on these cash on cash returns. How does let's say you gave a credit, now that we're having more buyers, have more flexibility, or sellers being more aggressive to sell the properties. So let's say you got a credit, then how would that change the formula?
You mean the seller would give the buyer a credit?
Credit, yeah.
Well, that's a good question. That I would actually ask your lender that, because they're going to do these calculations too. So if the seller gives the buyer a credit, generally speaking, and there's a lender involved, let's assume there's a lender involved,
right?
They're going to want to see that on the settlement sheet. Okay. In fact, they're going to base their loan decision and the amount of the loan based on everything on the table, credits and everything. So in this case, let's say purchase price 70,000, down payment 14,000, and the seller is giving the buyer back, let's just say, 1,000 for something they found in the final walkthrough, and they agreed to give them a credit back. In my experience, the lender's going to want to know that, and they will actually adjust everything accordingly. Now, maybe some lenders do it differently. I don't know, but I used to be in banking. That's what we did. So in that case, what would happen is the purchase price would then be 69,000 essentially, and the loan will be a little bit less. Now, there are situations where the seller would give the buyer credit, and like for closing costs, things like that, the lender would let them take that on the settlement sheet. It would not affect the loan. It would just allow them to cover the closing costs. But so what I'm getting at is there's things the lenders will do and agree to, and things they won't. But let's assume in this example, the lender's not going to adjust the mortgage amount. Okay, they're going to keep it at 56,000, purchase price at 70, buyer's putting down 14,000. Is the buyer going to be able to walk away with this additional 1,000? Probably not. They put it in their pocket. It has to go towards something. The lender's never going to let them. I mean, the title insurance, these guys are all looking at scrutinizing this thing. it's got to be for something. It's got to be for, fixing a roof or something. But the whole point is if it's a credit, I don't think that, and that's going to be used for something like that. In my opinion, Renee, I don't think that's going to affect these calculations here. The only time it would is if the lender would require them to put on the settlement sheet and adjust the mortgage accordingly. Then all these figures would change.
Okay.
And I had a thought too while I was saying that. So in this example, that credit that the buyer could use for repairing a roof leak did not affect the down payment at the time, okay? And the roof leak is simply a maintenance and a repair item, which belongs up here, okay? I wouldn't, if this is how I do business, I'm not going to capitalize something unless it's a true capital improvement, like I'm replacing the roof for $6,000. Yes, I would capitalize that, and then I would depreciate it. But for $1,000 repair, and I might have an accountant argue with me on this, but I'm going to take that as an expense that year and not a capital improvement. So in that case, if I take it as an expense, even though I got credit for it, that's not going to affect these calculations. But if I did decide to capitalize it, right, then my opinion is it would be added to this 14,000, and now you'd have a cash outlay of 15,000, right? So again, a lot of that depends on how you do your taxes and what your lender thinks. But sorry for the long explanation. Just I'm trying to think. Okay, what are all the possible things that could happen here? And those are some examples. And the last example what I gave there, if I expense that roof repair, even though I got $1,000 from the seller to do that, I'm still putting down 14,000. I'm still getting a loan for 56,000. So these things really don't change. Does that make sense, Renee?
Yes, sir. It does.
Okay, good. Let me check. There was a chat here. Let's see. Mortgage. It's out of Gregory. So Greg, were you trying to is there something about that you wanted to ask about or question? In your chat, it just says mortgage. Okay, he might be.
That has to do with the
I think that was
calculation.
in response to what was missing from the expenses, and it was the actual,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, everybody feel comfortable with this so far? And just remember, it's module 6 in the investor agent training program. And if I go back out here, let me, let's see, I've got to back out first. I'm going to go into the rental program here. And I'm pretty sure that was module 6. Hang on a second, maybe it was module 5. There it is. I'm sorry. It's in the rental profits program, guys, it's module 5. In investor agent, it's module 6. So in here, I give a much more elaborate example. Okay. Sorry, it's the same example. Yep. But in any case, a little more detail in this module. This whole program is just on rentals, buying rentals, the whole 9 yards. In any case, that's where you can find these things. And by the way, tonight's class, it assumes all the marketing you've done. If you're representing your investors, you've already found the properties, you've done your marketing, you've done the screening, interviewing, all that stuff. This is just the point in the relationship where you're actually looking at properties. And one more final thought on this. I want you to definitely learn this and just practice it. I mean, there's all kinds of cash flow analysis worksheets. There are Excel spreadsheet opportunity evaluators in here. There's an online calculator you can use. The best way to learn these things and just to be intuitive about them is to practice them. Just practice. I know we're all pretty busy here, but take advantage of the opportunity that you're looking at properties for your clients and doing the calculations. But out in the field, this is really important. And this is covered in this program too, anyways, is that you want to make sure your clients know how to do this too. You do not want to be in a position where your client's just saying, hey, you just tell me if you think it's a good deal, I trust you, okay? Always make sure you're sharing these things with your clients, okay? As an investor agent on the team, or even if you were a student, okay? You have the right to share these calculators with your clients. We put them in the resource area. In fact, let me go back here. You go into member resources, under tools is where you'll find rental profit calculator. This is an Excel spreadsheet. Opportunity quick analysis, that's an Excel spreadsheet. Basic cash flow analysis, that's just a simple Word document that you fill in line by line, okay? These are on here in their original format, editable format, Word documents, Excel spreadsheets, so that you have the right to put in there your name and email and phone number and give these to your clients and your prospects, okay? Same thing with these inspection forms. This here is an online calculator, but so we just share the link. But just remember, in the resource area, under tools, is where you can find these for your clients, okay? You can also get them in the training material, right? If you go back here, but if you happen to be in the resource area, or if you're out on the fly, it's probably easier to not go into the training material from your phones and go right to the resource area and grab them there. But if you look back at module 6 in the investor agent program, you'll see cash flow analysis is there. That's a simple, basic Word document. Opportunity evaluator, more elaborate Excel spreadsheet. And this here is the online calculator. And this one is one of my favorite tools. It's I don't know if we'll have time to do it tonight, but it's like a financial planner's calculator. It gives you what if scenarios, like assuming you sold the property 5 years after you bought it. It gives you all the financial details, all the spreadsheets, okay? This is really neat. But in any case, let me go to the opportunity evaluator. This is the old original Excel spreadsheet that we got from CCIM. And we made our own, okay? And so that you guys could have it. Let me check. Lisa, Michelle, promote, Lisa, promote, and Kevin, promote. Okay. All right. Hopefully it's loading up here. There it is. Okay. This is one of the main workhorses in this entire business. Okay. It's a lot more elaborate than what I just showed you a moment ago, right? See all this detail here? Okay. And the best way to learn this is just to practice it. And the cool thing is you don't have to learn all the math behind it. All the formulas are built in. But really, all you do here is over on the left is property information. We're not going to fill this in tonight. But if you're sharing this with a client, let's say you fill this out and you're going to share it with them, fill all this in, because then you can print it, right, and share it with them, or save it as a PDF, or just simply send it as an attachment if you want filled out. I kind of recommend giving the actual document, the actual Excel spreadsheet, so that they have it too. Remember, you want your clients to be able to do these calculations. And the big reason is this: it's all about liability. If you really read your state's, rules and regulations for being a real estate agent in your code of ethics, it does say that we're supposed to advise and consult, all right, and show houses, list properties, all those things we do. But we're not supposed to be their financial advisor. And there's nowhere in there that ever says we have to do the analysis on these properties. We're not required to do that. We're not required to do the analysis on these properties. Your clients are. Now, do you want to do the analysis? You better absolutely do it, so that you can help them avoid making a mistake. Okay. So let's say they do the calculations and you say, gee, you know what, Arthur? I don't see any advertising in here. Advertising can be quite an expense on a 20-unit building, right? Perhaps we should add advertising in your calculations. That's considered advising and consulting and looking out for your client's best interest. But make sure that they do the actual analysis, the decision. Make sure they own the decision. Okay, that is really important. Any brokers on here besides me? Anybody have a broker's license? Or run a brokerage or manage a brokerage? Yeah, that have you ever heard anybody getting in trouble because somebody bought a rental property and 6 months later, the buyer calls back and says, you know what? I'm really upset because nobody told me that, whatever, the lease, the tenancies that I inherited, the prior landlord had in their lease that they were collecting first and last month's rent, as well as the security deposit. And my tenant just left, did not pay his last month's rent because he told me he already paid it to the prior owner. And therefore I can't keep the security deposit. That's actually happened. Not to me, by the way, because I actually caught that one time. And actually know the realtor was trying to pull one over on me. She was a realtor and a landlord, but I had that happened to other clients that I had heard it from other people. They told me the things that happened. So the key there is obviously you make sure you get the leases, have your tenants, have your buyers read the leases word for word, and then you can consult with them on that. Okay. But in any case, let's go back to this calculator. So for the night's purpose, I'm going to leave this blank over here. All right. And let's just assume, let's do something really simple, like $1 million. Okay. Purchase price $1 million. And let's assume we're putting down 20%. So we're going to get a loan for 800,000. Okay. And we're going to make 12 payments a year. Okay. 12 payments a year. Let's say interest rate is, what should we say? It just went up again. Was that last week? Another 75 basis points. You guys seeing 6.5 out there?
We
Yeah.
had 6.25 today.
Okay.
Where 6 1/4, 6.5.
Okay, let's do 6.25. Or assume buyer has excellent credit history. Let's say it's 20 years amortization, and the term was also 20. What that means is, if you look at an amortization schedule on a loan where there's it's basically called a balloon, we call it repricing. So let's say you have a 30-year amortization, but a term of 15 years. Okay. What that means is you're going to be paying for 15 years with a payment that's structured like it's a 30-year mortgage. So the monthly payment is going to be lower than it was if it was a 15-year mortgage. 15-year mortgage, of course, shorter term, which means higher payments, higher monthly payments on principal and interest. So for our purposes, let's just say the term and the amortization match, which is what I prefer. Okay. And you hit the enter key and you look up here, you'll see up here, the 200,000 initial investment, which is your down payment, has already been calculated. All right. So 200,000 down payment, 800,000 mortgage equals $1 million purchase. Okay. And you also notice the monthly payment was actually calculated for us already. We've got a $1,500 a month payment. So now let's go down here. If you're doing, office warehouse, generally you're running by the foot. So you have to calculate write in your square footage, and then you write in the annual rent. So a really easy example is, let's say you have $1,000 square foot property. Okay. And you're going to pay $12 per foot annually. Okay. Whoops. Average, there it is. All right. That means you're getting $12,000 a year, or i.e. $1,000 a month. Now, in this example, we're not going to do this. We're going to actually do it as if it's a residential rental. So we got to come up with minimum 58, 47, 43 a month to at least break even. Now you're not going to break even because you're going to have other costs, insurance, taxes, everything else under the sun. Let's say for $1 million, we're getting, this is crazy, I know, but believe it or not, guys, we used to be able to get rental properties, easily 25,000 a unit. Okay. That's not happening right now. There's places where you're lucky to get a duplex for $1 million. But let's say the monthly rent, we got some 1-bedroom apartments. Let's just make it simple. Let's say the monthly rent we're bringing in is $15,000. Okay. Oh, sorry. Number of units. We're going to say 15 units, monthly rent, 1,000 equals annual rent of 180,000. So it means we're getting $15,000 a month, all right? So far, so good. Just based on this, who would do this deal? You're getting 15,000 a month and your mortgage payment's just under 6,000. Who would do this deal? I would. Yeah. So now let's get down here. This is the easy part, by the way, right? The purchase price, your loan information, and your income information, all right? Now down here, we have to assume a vacancy rate. And right now, vacancy rate are at all-time historical lows, okay? So we're going to assume, let's just assume a 2% vacancy rate, okay? Actually, the gross income is supposed to come over here. Hasn't done that yet. We'll have to find out what's going on here. But in any case, other income affected by vacancy, you could say laundry. Let's say laundry's 15 units. Let's say laundry is $100 a month. All right. Other income not affected by vacancy. Let's say you have a billboard on the side of your building, okay? And that's actually, that should be other effective income. I'm going to make that 1,200 actually, excuse me. Billboard, let's say you're getting a 1,200 a year for that, okay? That's pretty good. I'm going to see if, I don't know why this is not putting in the gross rents. This is crazy. In any case, go down here, let's go to real estate taxes. All right. You know what, guys, I'm just wondering why this is doing this. Let me check one thing here real quick. I'm going to go to the resource area and grab it from there. For some reason, that gross rent should be filled in for us, and I don't want to go through the whole exercise and not have it work for you. And here, I'm pretty sure, let's see, tools. So I'm going to use this one, rental profit calculator. I'm pretty sure we've used this recently, and I don't remember having any issues with that. Let's do the download. Okay. You said $1 million. Actually, wait a second. Let's make this, we're going to go to the downloaded version. Sorry. Download. Here we go. Rental profit calculator. Now we're talking. Okay. Let me just fill this in here real quick. And if you guys have questions, go ahead and type them in or unmute yourself. That's $1 million. We said 800,000 down here. Okay. Total periodic payments, interest rate 6.25, 20 years and 20 years. There we go. And we need 15 units at 1,000. We're going to blank this out here. And there's 180. There's now the 180 is in there. Okay. All right. We're going to we'll make this 3% vacancy. Okay. We'll leave the others alone too. So now we have gross operating income, 175 and $500. All right. Real estate taxes is going to be way more than that. Let's call that, let's make that say 7,500. Okay. Property taxes, we're going to assume we had that calculated already. Personal property tax, excuse me, we're going to leave that blank. Property insurance, let's call that 2,000. Okay. Management, and by the way, guys, I get this question all the time. What if I'm managing myself? Has anybody ever heard that question from a client or thought that yourself? What if I'm managing myself? Okay, here's a quiz question. If somebody's managing for themselves, And we're doing these calculations. Remember, these calculations are because we're trying to determine if this was a good deal. If someone's self-managing, should we include a management fee in there?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. And here's one of the hardest lessons in life for do-it-yourself investors. I'm going to save some money. I'm going to do it myself. And they won't include that in the calculation. Well, if you're lucky like me, you'll grow a pretty good sized portfolio and you won't want to be managing those things. And you're going to want to hand it off. Now, guess what? If you didn't account for that expense in your pro forma, it's going to bite you in the butt. It's going to come right off the top. Okay. Right out of your profit. You're going to make less money. Not only that, if you think about it, right, cerebrally, your role as an owner is separate than your role as a property manager, right? Your property manager role, if you choose to do that, you're paying yourself for a service. You're working for that money. You're collecting rents, you're taking care of maintenance and repairs, you're evicting people, you're advertising, you're showing vacancies, you're doing all that kind of stuff. That deserves to be paid, right? Your profit is not what that is. Your profit doesn't pay you for that. Okay, you should be paying yourself a management fee for that. And your profit is what's left over. So when you think of it from that perspective, everybody, no matter what, should be keeping money for property management. Let's say that's let's see, 180,000 a year, 10% is 18,000. Let's say they're only paying, let's make it 15,000. Okay. It's a 15-unit building, that's less than 10%. All right. We're not going to include payroll because we're paying management. Management should be paying payroll. Maintenance repairs. Remember I said earlier, $50 a unit. All right. So that's going to be 100 times 15 is 1,500 times 5, 7,500 plus another, going to be 9,000. I could have done that a lot more easily. And we'll assume that includes material. Okay. Come down here. Our tenants are going to be paying their own gas and electric. We'll pay the water for 15 units. Let's assume that's like 3,000 a year. Okay. Probably even more than that, actually. Let's see, 1,500. That's probably going to be a lot more. Let's make that something like 7,500. Okay. Now, and let's say that includes the sewer, right? Accounting and legal, chances are you're going to pay an accountant to do your taxes. Let's just say it's 500. Okay. License, permit, advertising, you're probably going to have a couple of vacancy or two. It's going to cost you maybe tell you $150, 1%. Okay. You're definitely going to have trash service come out of your taxes. We'll say that lawn care. Let's say lawn care includes landscaping and snow removal. Let's make that 1,200. Okay. So at the end of the day, look at your expenses, $42,850. Okay. And that probably could be higher. So if you subtract 42,850 from 175.5, remember we took out 3% for vacancies, you're left with a net NOI of $132,650. All right. And your debt service is going to be $70,169. Remember up here, 58,47.43 times 12 is 70,169. Subtract that from your net operating income. You're left with a cash in your pocket return of $62,481 before taxes. So the question is, if you annualize that, 62,000, say 62.5 times 12. No, I'm sorry, that is annual, excuse me. Is that worth putting down $200,000? Well, I would say so. In fact, if you look over here, the cap rate is 13.3%, right? Remember how we do the cap rate, right? And your debt coverage ratio, right? This is the amount of leftover income, right? That's left for you to pay your debt service. Well, that's pretty darn good. 1.89 is really good. Banks generally want to see 1.2, 1.25 in normal times. In times of economic upheaval, if you want to call it that, they want to see a higher debt coverage ratio because there's more risk to them. So I've seen banks go up to 1.75, even as high as 2.25 debt coverage ratio. That means that property better be a really good grand slam home run for them to finance in the middle of a recession. Okay, they want to see a much higher debt coverage ratio in recessionary times. In good times, lower DCR, in rough times, higher DCR. Okay, well, let me do a quick pause here and see if there's any questions. Let's see, Arthur, just going to grab something to drink. Okay, thanks, Arthur. And I think that was here for the questions. Okay.
No, Gary, I have a question.
Yep.
Well, out here, I've been playing with different properties because I'm working with a couple of different investors, and we're starting to get real serious about watching this market. And we're seeing anywhere from 4 to 6 cap rate. It's really, really tough. And we're seeing, oh gosh, there's a duplex I'm watching that right now they want 480 for it, and I can figure it out where I could, if I were to buy it for me, I could make it work at 4.25. But you know, that's a lot of money for 2 doors.
I know. Yep. So here's what I learned over the years. In times of inflationary times when prices were going up, rents always did go up, but not nearly at the same pace as the values. So, and I thought, well, this is really going to hurt business. But you know what I found out? People still invest. So let's go back up here and say, for $1 million, we're not going to get 15 units. We're going to get maybe 12 units. Okay. And look at what that does at net operating income. It drops it down by a full third. So if you come down here, right, cap rate's still pretty good. Debt cover ratio is pretty good, but your cash flow is down to less than 30,000 a year, 27 and some change. Okay. All right. Now let's say it's even not that great. For $1 million, we're only getting, say, 8 units. Okay. Now the picture's starting to change a little bit. All right.
Now it's looking more realistic.
Yep. Cap
At
rate.
least for here.
Yeah. Cap rate 5.1%. Debt coverage ratio now is 0.723. Most
So now
banks,
the bank is going to give me grief, right?
absolutely. So what can we do? What can the buyer do to get the property and not have this problem if he or she wants to get a loan?
Live in one of the units?
Well, they could put down more money. So
Down more money.
Yep. So let's say they only
Use a
borrow.
different lender?
Let's say they only borrow, sorry, 600,000. Let me put another zero in there. They only borrow 600,000. That's still not going to be enough. Watch. Yes, debt coverage ratio is still under 1%. If you notice, the cap rate didn't change, right? Because we didn't change the income and expense from the last time around. We changed the down payment, right, to try to raise the DCR. So we got to now, let's see if they put down half the money. All right, and there it is right there. If they put down 50% and finance 50%, now debt coverage ratio is getting close. So that's one trick. And this is what I found when I was out, like in California in the early years. I'm thinking to myself, has anybody ever been to San Francisco, the Bay Area? Unbelievably expensive. I mean, oh gosh, it's always been that way. I'm thinking, how do people make a living out here buying rentals? And what I found out was, you know what they were doing? They were paying cash, right? Oops, sorry. They weren't financing anything. They were just paying cash, and that's how they would get,
Hey, Gary, if you were to go back to the numbers that you just had in there and just change the loan and take that 20%, what am I trying to say? Make it a 30-year amortization.
Yep.
And a 30-year loan.
Yep.
How much does that change if you now have put your $200,000 down?
Okay, let's do that. So, did I do that right? Yeah. So took the loan payment down below 500,000. What we could do, below 5,000 a month. So let's just see down here. So we still have a very low debt coverage ratio. And of course, cap rate doesn't change. And more importantly, we have a negative cash flow.
Oh.
So
okay.
So we really do, now you could say, well, really, these units should be getting $1,200 a month, right? Which is probably realistic by today's standards, right? And the bankers know this. They will look at the pro forma as well as the actuals, right? So if the actuals are $1,000 a month and you tell them the pro forma is $1,200 a month per unit, they're going to take that into consideration. So let's see what happens. Look at that. Debt coverage ratio is really close. It's just almost 1.2 and cap rate 6.9.
There you go. That works.
Yep. But for me, $10,000 is only, 5% of 200,000 down payment. Why didn't this thing put in the 200,000 here? That's weird. There. Oops, no,
That's
that should be
20.
one more zero. Yep. Darn it. Thought we got away with one here. So, okay. But this is why I like this calculator, because it's so easy to change the variables and all the math is done for you, So, by the way, is anybody interested in all this stuff over here? Like what the ratios are of gross operating income and net operating expenses? It's real easy. So if you look here, real estate taxes is $7,500 a month. It's assuming we have square footage in here somewhere, which I don't see. Oh, there it is right there, 1,600 square feet. It's assuming 1,600 square feet. So 7,500 is $4.69 per square foot for taxes on an annual basis. Okay, per unit. They were assuming one unit over there, one building. But in any case, as a percentage of gross operating income, 7,500 is 6.7% of $112,320. Now, why is these ratios important? It's important because we have benchmarks. And so it's easy to figure out what the benchmarks are for an area. So for San Francisco, somebody says, well, typically real estate taxes should only be about 5% of the gross operating income. Then we know we're paying too much in taxes here. And we can go appeal the taxes. And usually once a year, you're allowed to go appeal your property taxes. We would go appeal our property taxes and show them the benchmarks for the area. And they all have the benchmarks anyways. They know the numbers. They'll say, yep, you're absolutely right. Really what they're looking at though is on single family homes, they're looking at market value, and on rental properties are looking at the income approach to valuation. So in any case, 7,500 is also 17.5% of 42,850. See, it says percentage of operating expenses is this last column. Percentage of gross operating income is this column right here. So if you look at management, oh, we forgot to change that. We knocked it down to how many units? 8 units. So we definitely need to change that. Let's make that 8,000. Let's make it 8,000. Now that'll change things. See, now it's definitely up above. Now you have a debt coverage ratio the bank will like, So also we did not adjust expenses. Remember when we reduced the number of units, we didn't adjust expenses. So, but in any case, you see what I'm saying? This is probably one of the most used calculators in the world of analyzing rental properties. You can rename it, make it your own. Our version is the one you can edit and put in your name and email and phone number. But this is ultimately where I wanted to end up tonight, is showing you this one here and go through an exercise and show you in today's market, like Lisa suggested, what if you have a really low cap rate and a low debt coverage ratio, what can you do? And these are some of the things you can do, You can always play the income expense game, but that's only going to get you so far. The real big movement, the things that will give you more movement are your down payments and your how you do your mortgages, the rate, the term, the amount, all that kind of stuff. Really, all that really matters. So,
hey Gary, it's Gregory from Arizona. With your how you doing? With the first couple examples where you had the low debt coverage ratio, In a higher market, is there opportunity for the seller to carry back some to help out?
Oh, absolutely. So, yeah, you can, so you can do, if you look back in the late 70s and early 80s, I was just getting out of high school, going into college, and interest rates were 18, 19%. It was crazy. So back then there was a lot of owner financing going on, absolutely. There's also private lenders. That's kind of a big thing. Hey, by the way, is anybody here? Did anybody go to Jay Connor's event? Was that this past weekend? Or is that the end of October? I can't remember.
It's the end of October.
Oh, thank you. Yep. So private money, guys, remember it's all private money is not hard money. All hard money generally is considered private money. But private money could be private citizens. A neurosurgeon or a cardiosurgeon that really wants to be in real estate, but has no time to be looking at properties and dealing with this kind of stuff, So they'll be a lender, they can be a lender and they're, we've had people get private money, and that's going to change now because the rates have gone up. But for the last several years, people were getting private money as low as 6, 7, and 8%. I mean, I'd take that any day of the week, Private money also, that of course is not hard money, is also less stressful on the cost. I mean, you're not paying as many points. There's the penalties are not as great if you pay it off early. There's the early payment penalties, they don't exist sometimes in private money. So in private money, remember, you can make short term. You can buy a property with private money, take the next year and raise your rents. You make some improvements, raise the rents, which does what to the property? When you increase this net operating income on a property, remember it's an income producing property. And how are income producing properties evaluated? On the income. So if you raise the income, what do you also raise? The value. Absolutely. Yep. So then you can go refinance. So now you've got a year of seasoning. You've owned it for a year. You've shown you can be a good landlord. You've even raised the rents. If you were a lender, would you look kindly and favorably upon that landlord wanting to refinance a property they already own, manage successfully for a year, and raise the rents? Yeah, that will be considered a good credit risk, So remember the 4 C's of lending: cash, collateral, credit, and character. That shows character. And that's at the end of the day, of all the lenders I've known, they said at the end of the day, when you're a veteran investor, they're looking at character. If you're a brand new investor, they're definitely looking at the first 3: cash, collateral, and credit, But as you build a portfolio, they're like, you know what? We don't care if the hurricane comes. We don't care if you lose your job. We know those properties are going to stand on their own because they've been doing so for 10 years. It actually gets easier to borrow money. So for the investors out there, just know this. I know it looks tough to get started, believe me, but once you just have to get started. I don't care if it's a single family home, whatever it is, or like Lisa was saying earlier, you could get a duplex, live in one half and rent out the other. That's a great way to get started. Nothing's permanent, and that's only for maybe 2 years, something like that. But it gets you in the game, gets you some cash flow coming in, some rental passive income coming in. Shows the bankers you know what you're doing, you're disciplined, you're a hard worker, you're going to make the thing profitable, and then it gets a lot easier to borrow money. So, in any case,
Hey Gary,
yes,
I have a
ma'am.
question. Over on the right hand side, it says "What if?"
Yes.
What are you using these boxes for? And because I noticed they didn't change when you put stuff in. So what is the point of those?
Yeah, actually, these actually should be changing too. I'm not sure what's going on here tonight with these calculators, but these are assuming what if you sold at a cap rate of 10%, what would you sell for? And you would sell, the value is $764,700. Well, you wouldn't sell for that because you paid $1 million for it, and cash out the sale will be negative 35,000. So these, as far as I know, these aren't. Let's do this. Let's actually say it's 7.6. Okay, now it changes. See, so now you would sell it for a little bit more than $1 million, and you would you'd have cash out 206,000. So
Okay, I got you.
yeah, the reality is though, guys, you would never do that. And what this tells me is, even though this deal would work, it's a sign of the times. Things will change. I do believe as this economy continues to turn, it's probably going to have to get worse before it gets better. Just the nature of the beast. It's nothing to be concerned about. If you think about it, even in the last recession, the big mother of all recessions, almost in 80 years, transaction volume only dropped 25%. I know that does sound dramatic. What, 25% of all transactions it dropped by that much? Yeah, it did. But half the agents left the business, right? So the other half of the agents were left with essentially a 50% increase in production across the board, but it also means that 75% of the volume was still there. Okay. So, and that was a pretty dramatic recession. I mean, by some people's standards, that was a depression. It was a mild depression. And if Obama didn't require the big healthy banks to acquire the unhealthy banks, we probably would have had a depression. In fact, we would have had a depression. So it was one of the biggest saves in American history. And I'm not a big government person, believe me. I used to cringe when the government would go in and bail out General Motors and bail out Ford and all that. And people would say, well, we're just helping the rich people get richer. Well, the reality is, man, you lose a company like that, a lot of people are going to get hurt, right? So it's better to keep the jobs and keep the manufacturing course. You look at Ford, turned it around, and they really did a good job. So in any case, when it comes to banking, that's the top of the food chain. We can't have big bank failures. It would take down the rest of the country. So in any case, long story short, I used to get worried about these things, but I don't anymore, and it's only because I've been through it enough times. I definitely care which way the economy is going, and I'm not trying to be cavalier or anything like that. But when you've been through it enough times, you kind of know what it looks like and you kind of know what to expect. And at the end of the day, the most important thing is when other people are panicking, which messes with their head and they don't take meaningful action, they get into a worry state. You should be the one out there swinging the bat. Just keep getting up in the morning, putting on your boots, put on your work gloves, and keep swinging the bat. That's how you're going to not just survive but thrive. And I remember back in the mid 80s when in the Reagan years, when there was so much defense spending going on around Washington, they had what's called the Beltway, just like in any big city, it's, the Beltway. And all the contractors around there, they were called the Beltway bandits because they were just gobbling up tax dollars like crazy. And some of them got in trouble for being not disciplined with their timekeeping. They were charging for hours worked that weren't being worked, and they got audited and they got caught. Well, one of the companies I worked for, we worked on submarines for the Navy. That was one of the companies. We had nothing to do with it. We were down in Norfolk, Virginia. The company's up in DC. And all of a sudden, that manager for that site came in one day. He was a former captain, Navy captain. He was in tears saying, guys, we got to shut things down. And all these, people with kids and college and all kinds of stuff. And it was just over in a flash, but that was a hard lesson in life. But I thought, you know what? I'm going to start right now to get that next job. And I did. I started making phone calls that afternoon. And by the way, that was a week before I was getting married. So how do you imagine that? Going up to meet my in-laws, and I had no job. Actually, I had an offer. I got 3 offers. But I worked my butt off, and I realized I just didn't panic. I didn't have a choice. There were other times when I did panic, like in the first couple of recessions I was in. I didn't know what to expect. I thought the world was ending, But I finally realized it's cyclical. The business cycle is always either going to be going up or going down, and just keep remembering, if it's going down, that's good news because the next thing it's going to do is go back up again. Right? Okay, I'm starting to get a little preachy here, so I'm going to stop the share here and look for questions. How long should you hold on to a rental before selling? So Tony, it turns out across the U.S., the average hold time for rentals is between 10 and 12 years. It varies with economies. So my average hold time was 12 years. Now, you do depreciate these properties. So some people would say, well, once I've held them for 27 and a half years, which is how long you can depreciate them, then they'll sell because they no longer get the depreciation expense. They can't write that off. For me, it was just a matter, it was opportunity. So I would look at what other opportunities, what the upside potential is for me to get other opportunities versus the downside risk of not getting those opportunities. I do the same thing with the properties I currently held. I would say, okay, if I held these for another 12 years, what's the upside potential versus the downside risk? And that when I did those equations, for me, it turned out 12 years was about the average. I mean, sometimes I held them 7 years, sometimes I hold them 20 years, but the average was 12 years. And that's why what's interesting, if you look at ReallyFlow, remember the one search term on ReallyFlow or lead gen system, it's called board investor. And what it is landlord, right? Absentee owner landlord with ownership of 10 or more years. And of course, they don't live there, two criteria is set at 10 years because they know after 10 years, there's a greater percentage of people looking to sell their rentals. That's why I love that search term and ReallyFlow. For the new folks, let me do a quick share here so you see exactly what I'm talking about. Okay. Let's go. Where am I going? I'm going to here. There it is. Okay. So if you go into lead pipes premium, we'll just assume we're doing a search in. So let's do, who wants me to do a search for him?
Greer, Carolina.
Greer. Okay. I love it. Wait, Olga, you're on the, whatever you're drinking, I want some of that.
Oh, that's San Filipino.
Oh, there you go. Cool.
Mineral water.
There you go.
Makes me strong.
That's right. Keep you sharp and clear too. All right. So we're going to do board investor. All right. And remember, if you click on that, it says absentee owner and landlord has owned the property for 10 years. All right. Or more. So that's what we're going to look at. And we're going to look for, we will eliminate apartments. We'll focus on multifamily, shingles, condos and townhomes, and we will eliminate the other. And let's see what we have in Greer. Greer's a great town. My very first dog came from Greer, South Carolina. And we used to live.
It was the best dog ever too.
Oh yeah. And guess what? You probably never heard of it, but you'll hear about it now. I lived in Belton, South Carolina, which is kind of close to Anderson, kind of south of Greenville. So in any case, if you look here, you got 1,329 rentals in Greer that have been owned more than 10 years. That is a big number for a town that size. That is giant, you know? So what we can do, Olga, is we can add in here delinquent tax activity. Now we might not get any. Ooh, all right. So you only have 6 properties owned more than 10 years where the owner is behind on property taxes. So let's get rid of that because that's knocking it down too far. But let's look for ones with high equity. Okay. Now that's a good number there, 359. Okay. 359 owners have owned the property more than 10 years, they're rental properties, and they have what's considered high equity. Okay. So I'm going to get rid of these old ones here for you and save this for you. Let's see, remove those. Yep. Let's go back here. And we're going to select all 359. Go back here and download them. Standard file, export. Let me get to my email here. Compose. Olga. Is that still good? Olga Diana, realtor. Yep. Okay. File equals let's see. 10 years ownership High equity rental. Let me get rid of that. Hey guys, how do you like my the additional to my signature block in my emails now? Can you see what it says there? Hey, you should be in class this coming Monday at Monday Night Live. It's free and packed with action and you should take now. Here's the link. So I put that in all my emails now to invite people to class. Anybody want to copy that one?
Nice, yep.
Yeah, that's a good one. It works. You'd be surprised. I forget, sometimes I'll take it out if I'm contacting someone else, but sometimes I'll forget. And I'll get a message back saying, well, okay, Gary, I just registered. It's like my Uncle Bill or something, you know? So let's get Olga's file here. And then we'll get back.
By the way, Gary,
Uh-huh.
I do not know if you keep an eye on Belton, but I think it's one of the prime rental markets nowadays, and it's really not as easy to buy anything anyway here.
Well, you know what? I appreciate you saying that. So my grandparents used to live at 330 South Main Street, and it's on the corner of Main Street. I forget the side road coming in. There's the Ingles store right on the, past the point to the left. But their property we sold it at auction, and then the buyer tore it down and put a little convenience store there. And the area kind of ran across hard times, but it's one of those old southern towns where the families will stay there, and there's a little bit of industry, a little bit of farming. It will never grow that much, but it's got a lot of classic. There's some historical buildings there. In fact, the train station is a national historical landmark designation, thanks to my stepmom, who used to work for that National Historical
wow.
Society. Yeah, she got that approved for that train station, and there's artifacts in there from my family going back all the way to the Revolutionary
wow,
War.
that is so cool.
Yep.
You know, they do have a train running now, so
Oh,
it's
good.
been a battle. Yep.
Okay. So, somebody's right. When they go back to the
Sorry.
free flow, yeah, that's okay. I want to show you one more thing here. In lead pipes. If you remember, guys, under the analyzing tab, you can look under deal analyzer. Okay. And this is another way to calculate returns. So let's look at let's create new analysis. We're going to do the multi-page analyzer. I'm gonna have to put in some addresses here. 1, 2, 3. Let's do Belton. Oops. And in Greenville, Olga, my other grandparents lived at 27 Rock Creek Drive, down off Augusta Boulevard, right in Greenville. I don't remember the zip code, but I don't think that's necessary. Create. Now, if you notice, one of the first questions is this going to be a buy and flip or a buy and hold? We're going to say there's going to be a buy and hold, and it'll give you different calculations versus buy and flip. Okay. And I'm not going to go into a lot of great detail here, guys, but just remember, this is a great online calculator that you have as for being on the team. And you could sit down with any prospect, any client at Starbucks, Panera, and go over this with them. Let's say you looked at 3 properties that day. Go out, take them the coffee, sit down and say, now we're going to plug these in and do some what if scenarios using this, maybe even use the opportunity evaluator. Who thinks that might be a good idea? Yep. Let the software do the talking for you. All right, let me check. Renee, how do I schedule a time to speak with you one-on-one? Okay. Hey, Renee, hang on. Let me get you that real quick. I thought I had it up earlier. All right, let me go grab it real quick. Let's see. Documents. Okay, Windows. Does anybody besides me ever get tired of Windows? I mean, not Windows in your house, Windows okay, I gotta go through this every time I gotta grab this. It's a pain in the neck. So let's see. Strategy. I used to have this up all the time, guys, and I just didn't set it up at a time. I didn't think about it. So I'll grab this. I'm going to put this in the chat box for everybody, just in case there's There's other guests on. And let's do copy. And chat. Okay, so that's the link to set up your strategy call. Those on the team, you already know that link. You do have to schedule a minimum of 48 hours in advance, so I have time, prepare and adjust my schedule. And you can't schedule more than 2 weeks, past 2 weeks out, just because too many things change. But anybody can use that, set up a call with me. I don't mind at all. I'm glad to do it. Let's see, I think that was it. Oh, Greg, okay, Greg, is it better to do a 1031 instead of selling? Greg, that's, we should definitely do what we can do another call on that, like another class, but I have some unique feelings about 1031, and here I'll just give it to you the summary version. 1031 exchange allows you to sell one investment property, take those proceeds and buy another replacement investment property and defer the capital gains on the sale of the first. You roll it in to the next one. It keeps rolling forward. Okay. Now there's some really strict rules about this. Whatever you're going to buy to replace the one you're selling, you got to identify it in 45 days. Okay. There's a lot more to that, but just remember 45 days. And then you've got to close on it at 180 days. Which doesn't sound too bad. But if you ever bought a big building, like I remember the first time I went above 20 units, I bought a 78 unit building, ended up becoming a 90 unit building. It did not close in 180 days. It took over a year, so there's several reasons why I do not like 1031 exchange, and that's one of them. The other thing too is, you remember how I said with 1031 exchange, you're basically kicking the can down the street. Okay. So, and I know people that this has happened to. What the problem is with that is it looks good on paper. Yeah, it looks great on paper. You're saving all that tax money. You can use that money temporarily, but it's only temporary. At some point, you got to pay back the piper. Unless you pass away and then your heirs, as long as you're structured properly, they inherit those properties with a brand new cost basis. So that's a benefit, but it's going to cost you your life. Okay. So the other thing though that happens though is life happens. I mean, if you live 100 years, I guarantee you, you're gonna have some challenges in life. People get married, they get divorced, people have children, people die, people get jobs, people lose jobs. So let's say you're 5 exchanges in. You've been investing for 20 years. You're on your 5th exchange, never paid a dime in capital gains. All of a sudden, something bad happens. Whatever, divorce. If you're getting a car accident, you're incapacitated, and you need the money and you have to sell. Well, guess what? The IRS has no provisions for hardship. They want their money. Okay. And they're going to get it. So in any case, I prefer to do things differently. I don't use 1031 exchange. In fact, I have a friend of mine in Colorado that what I just described there happened to him, and he had a $3 million tax bill he had to pay back. Okay. So in any case, there's other things you can do with 1031 exchange as far as, owning a property, living it yourself for a couple of years, things like that. There's all kinds of tricks you can play, but generally they take time. And if somebody's in crisis mode, they might not have time to live somewhere for 5 years to defer or basically transfer or sign that exchange. So, because here's Bonetta. Okay, if an owner sells a private home and makes over $250K in capital gains and buys another property immediately, until that still have to pay capital gains. But so Bonetta, on that one, on your personal home, those rules have changed over the years, but I do believe it's actually easier now for homeowners. They're more favorable to homeowners who sell a home and buy another home. But I would definitely check with your tax accountant to see what the current rules are. Does anybody know the current rules? They just changed a few years ago. It used to be you got a one-time get out of jail free card. Like if you were over 55, that was the old days. I think one of the things they did is they made that you can do that once in your life and not have to pay capital gains on your property. But what they also did was, I'm pretty sure, if you're buying another home, you don't have to pay taxes on the sale of the last home as long as you're buying a new home to live in. I'm pretty sure that's what it is, but Ed, I would definitely check with your tax account, unless somebody here knows the answer, because they've dealt with this recently. That's in the owner occupied world, and I just haven't done anything in the owner occupied world, and probably, I don't know how long, a long time. It's been a while. So in any case, okay, guys, 8:37. Somehow or another, we always manage to do it. And I'm okay as long as you guys are okay. Any final questions or thoughts?
That's Greg again. Quick question on real flow. There was multifamily and apartments. Is there a difference between multifamily and apartments and real flow, or is that duplexes or what?
Yeah, I think apartment really refers to, we can go check it out. Let's go see, because it should give us a definition. But I think when it just says apartments, what it's talking about are just traditional, you're just, you're living in an apartment, but it's not a condo and it's not a rental. So let's see if they give us the definition of that. No, it's not giving us a definition. I think there was a place in here though, Arthur, where they give you the definitions of their terms. Here we go. Let's see.
Yes.
There we go. Well, I don't see apartment though, unfortunately.
But
delete.
from my experience, I believe apartments are single unit apartments, and multifamily is the real estate definition of 4+
Gotcha.
units.
So in other words, an apartment could be like an apartment over a garage or something like that, or a basement
Correct.
apartment. Gotcha.
Correct.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. This is a great system, guys. I mean, if you haven't been in here for a while, I would jump in, play around. Their support's great. They'll give you a free, if you're on a team, they give you a free half-hour consultation. The knowledge base is where you get a lot of things answered here. Find out a lot. There's a lot of short little videos. Let's just type in
apartment.
Oop, I guess it'd help if I spelled it correctly.
Yeah.
There we go. Search. Premium lead types glossary. Oh, wonder how we didn't see it in there. Okay, property leads, active listing, board investor, foreclosures, long-term owner, potentially inherited, pre-foreclosure. So this is the definition of all their search terms. Where's the apartment? Did I miss it?
Let's see if I can find.
Gary, you could probably do a search with just apartments and see what kind of properties come up.
Hey, let me go back here real quick.
I'm in a property search.
Oh, you're saying go back in the property search?
Yeah, property search and take out everything except apartments and then just see what kind of properties.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, okay, I see what you're saying. Let's go back here. Property leads. Whoops, sorry. And one more. Let's do Greer, South Carolina. And let's just leave everything the same, see what pops up. $23 of them. Okay, let's go look at the.
This is an apartment building.
Yeah, apartment building, nursing home. Oh, look.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Looks like these are all nursing home type properties. Well, at least that sheds a little light on it,
Right. Interesting.
I mean, they're all special purpose. They're not, in other words, these aren't going to be available to every renter, and they're definitely not condos.
Okay. Looking at the prices of them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's actually kind of strange there. 1 million, 15 million.
So it must be apartment buildings.
Well, it might be the way the data is entered in the county records. Remember, really flow like the need data aggregator, it's only as good as the data that it's accessing, in this case, the county data. So if we pull this up on Chandler Road for 15.8 million.
Just in case, if somebody far away from Greer, I can do the drive-by.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's right. Well, look, the owner is in New York City, Greer South Carolina Realty LLC. So I think they discovered Greer like you did, Olga, So, and they probably own, look at the property taxes. Yeah, see, so this is on the entire building, the
Right.
entire complex. Now they obviously own a lot of property because they've got a loan out right now for 185 million. So they're probably a big operator. They probably got, retirement homes all over the place, probably in the South.
You know what, Gary, you could run that through enriched data now and get all of the properties that they own and all of the lenders that are lending in that area and all
Wow.
kinds of information on it.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, because the enriched data will get all of that stuff.
I'm going to look at this one here. Now this may be a simple Greer Community Ministries. Okay, this is going to be owned by like a church or something. They're in Greer, and chances are, this is probably like a small. There just isn't just one apartment. It's probably a small. They probably owned this for years. It's probably a small, maybe like a 10-bed property, something like that.
Yeah.
So, in any case, lots of good stuff here. Okay, guys, I think I'm going to try to wrap this one up. I'm trying to remember if there's anything I need to tell you. So next week is not the monthly team call is not going to be the second Wednesday of the month because next week will be the second Wednesday, and 6 of us will be in Vegas for the annual EXP conference. Okay. So that's the 12th. So we've moved it to the following Wednesday, the 19th. So on the 19th, when we have the monthly team call, and definitely, please make sure you're on the monthly team call. We have 2 big things that we're going to be talking about. And you already know about them. One has to do with the book and one has to do with the transaction coordinator. So we're going to kind of lay everything out for you, go through the steps 1 through 10. We are going to get everybody involved with helping to promote and market the book. As of 10 a.m. this morning, and I just put the message out there like last Thursday or Friday, we've already sold 101 books, not including what I did. So this is in addition to you guys and anybody else out there in the public. So that's really good. And we're getting all the podcasters that I've had on my podcast for the last 3 years. I don't know how many there's, 150, something like that. They're all going to be asked to promote it since we put them on our podcast. Those are big influencers, some of them. And then also the Honey Badger line. I'm meeting with Holly Kitchens tomorrow morning to utilize the Honey Badger line. And we've got Donna Marie, we call her Dawn, creating a marketing package for you, not a package, it's basically an insert, something you put into your email signature block. You put it on your Facebook page if you have one. You put it on, you do a Facebook post, things like that that are real easy for you to get involved. We are asking everybody on the team to please buy 1 book so you can leave a review. Okay, the reviews are critical. We need to get to 100 reviews like ASAP, because it's not just how many reviews you have, it's how fast you get them. That's how Amazon works, because we're going for top seller status. Okay. Not hard to do. I think you saw 300 books. We're already a third there. We get to say Amazon bestseller. If you sell 3,500 books, then you're like a whatever top 1% of free. Amazon gives you a lot more juice, but we'll take the juice after 300 books to get us to the next level. The thing is that it is good. If you haven't, if you're not aware of it, it's Global Investor Agent. That's the book, The Global Investor Agent. It's on Amazon. You can get Kindle or a printed version. Let me put it in the chat box here. And if you're not on the team, if you're a guest, we would love for you to get that book, obviously. Let's see here. Let me type that in. The Global Investor Agent. Okay. And that's on Amazon. And here's what's really cool about this. The subject matters, of course, being an investor agent. Can you imagine how timely this is? I mean, I tell you, I couldn't have planned this more perfectly that it's coming out right when the Fed just raised rates 3 times in a row after 2 years of rapid price escalations. Also, some more good news. I applied to have it be an Audible book, an audio book. You can't just do that and assume that and get on Audible. We got approved for Audible, guys. That's a big, big deal. And it's thanks to you guys, people like Lisa and Andre, and who else? Let's see, Deborah, Shastine, Gina, Lisa, Kathy, Gilbert. Am I missing anybody, Lisa? I should have been counting on my fingers. Oh, Melanie Abraham, she's in it. So
You have a
those are the,
good memory.
what's that?
You have a good memory.
Oh, well, that makes me feel better because lately I've been feeling like my memory's been completely shot, but maybe I'm relaxed more now. But in any case, guys, we're going to do another book. It's probably going to be a while because that was a 6-month project and we're just getting the marketing started. That's going to be a lot more. So it takes a while, but boy, is it worth it. And everybody on the team, a couple things are, number one, we couldn't put your profiles in the book. I couldn't figure out where were they because I knew I asked for it. They won't let us. But what we do have in there is all the testimonials all the students have provided over the last couple of years. And most of the agents on the team have provided a testimonial. So you're in there because your picture and everything. And more importantly, about 7 times, no, probably 15 times in the book, we drive them to the globalinvestoragent.com website where they find your profile. Okay. So Olga, you're on there too, actually. Team sided. In any case, just remember, guys, all we're asking you to do.
Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. All we're asking you to do is buy one book, leave a review. And for the authors, we ask the authors to buy 10 books and you use those to hand out to people. And anybody on the team that wants to attract people, you should get a handful and have them with you so you can hand to people, right? In any case, on all profits go to the Healing House Foundation. So I do ask you from a humble servant spirit, if you could please, even for that purpose, buy a book and all that profit. I can't have the shipping and handling goes to Amazon, but the rest of it I don't pay myself out of this. Nobody gets paid out of this. There's no salaries. 100% of it goes to Healing House Foundation that you actually have voting power in. Okay. So if you could do that, guys, if you'd be doing a good deed for somebody in need, and also it'll help your business too. So in any case, any final thoughts or questions or comments? This has been one of the more quiet classes I think we've had in a long time. So
Need more San Pellegrino, you're gonna be good.
there you go. That's right. Actually, I'm going to admit something here. I love kale. I just had kale today for the first time in weeks. So I love kale salads. And you eat kale for about a month, guys, it'll make you feel like Popeye, But Olga, sadly, I'm eating almond tort in about 5 minutes.
The enriched data.
Yes,
that,
sir.
Lisa was talking about. Is that provided to us yet?
Yeah, I don't think, Lisa, they've done it for residential. I mean, you can buy it, right? But they're not rolling out.
Yeah, it's $60 a month through EXP, and that's all the commercial properties. And the residential is in beta mode for Texas only. And I thought they were going to release the rest of it, the residential part, by the end of the year. But I'm hoping they'll announce that at EXPCon. But it's $60 a month for people who are with EXP.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. And EXP owns it. It's proprietary.
Yeah.
So if you're, and it's the only company I'm aware of that's doing anything like it. They're actually using, this is what I understand. I could be wrong. Lisa, correct me if I'm wrong. They're using the same technology that's used in blockchain processing that's being used in the crypto world to capture all that data, transactional history, compile it and process it, and all that kind of stuff. So that's pretty impressive. Think about it. It grows it grows based on our usage of it. And they're loading it all in there. We don't even have to do anything, So that's pretty awesome sauce,
It's pretty cool. I'm sure they'll do another training on it at EXPCon, and because I did the last one, and as you're talking to or listening to the people who created it, it's just amazing, and they're actual appraisers too. So it's way smarter than I could be.
Gary, what
Yes.
is that enriched data? What is that?
Lisa, you want to give a quick little 10-second description there or more if you need to.
It's where right now they've got all the commercial properties in the United States. So you can type in an address and it pulls up the information. It has everything from the estimated value to who owns it, how many properties they actually own, what lenders are loaning on those types of properties in that area. You can do a complete, really nice BPO or CMA through them and save it and send it to your clients. It's pretty impressive, the software.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's an author. Thanks for putting in the oops, I think I selected way too much. Thanks for putting in the link for the book. Let me go back here real quick. Uh-oh. Where am I? There I am. Let's see. I'm gonna copy this so I can put it back in the chat again. Whoops. Oh, come on, computer. Okay, I think that's it. Copy. Let me test this real quick, guys, and then I'll plug it in for you. I just want to make sure I got the whole link. Yep, that worked. Let me type it back in here. So Arthur, did you want my scheduling link? I'll put that in there for you. I didn't know if you were asking for that.
No, it was the book link, but then I just found it.
Okay, gotcha. All right. Well, let's try. I forgot that. Just put that in there twice. Let me put my scheduling link again just to be safe. Copy. Come on, computer. And do this the hard way. There. Copy and paste. Okay, guys, if that's there's nothing else, hope you all have a good rest of the week, an awesome week. God bless you and your families, and I'll see you on the one-on-ones. And if not, next Monday night we'll be teaching. We do have a guest. Is that yes? Next, you definitely want to be on. Invite everybody next Monday night. A guy named Ashley Tyson is coming on to describe and give you all the details on opportunity zone investing, like literally what you have to do, what you have to know. So this is definitely one you want to bring guests on, agents, even investors. Just invite them to class. Use that link, send it out. I recommend just do an email message to your database. Say, guys, this is one you want to be on. Monday Night Live, Ashley Tyson teaching opportunities on investing, 100% free and open. So be a good way to do another good deed for your community. Okay, guys.
Hey, Gary.
Yes, ma'am.
I put the enriched data link in there for anybody who wanted to click on the site and take a look at it.
Oh, thanks. Let me see. There it is. Let me grab that.
Thank you, Lisa.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Lisa. Yep. I'm gonna double up on that too. There we go. All right. Hey, if you guys have any questions, feel free to email me, call me, text me. Also, please set up the one-on-ones, and we'll see you next Monday night. Sound good?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good night, everybody.
Thank you. Good night.
Oops.